Poland goes to the polls on October 15. If the pollsters are right, a right-east alliance, keen on dumping the EU, is set to triumph. Warsaw could start a domino effect of Eastern Europe states, writes Jonathan Saxty. By mid-January 2024, two of the biggest questions which grip the world, the fate of the EU and the prospect of war over Taiwan, will be much closer to being answered. By then, we will know who has won elections in both Poland and Taiwan, with the starting gun fired on the former this week. Taiwan's election is scheduled for January 13. Opinion polls suggest the candidate least amenable to the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, current vice president, William Lai Ching-te, will become president. It is generally agreed that Beijing is biding its time on the Taiwan question, waiting to see if a more amenable candidate wins, and whether the door remains open to peaceful unification or at least a thawing of relations. Should Lai win, however, the CCP is likely to take the gloves off, and could begin making serious preparations for a blockade or invasion of the island democracy, something with worldwide ramifications. Of course, as of now, the Taiwanese people fiercely reject unification with China. No less significant, at least for Europe, will be Poland's election, set for October 15. Along with Hungary, Poland is the leader of the conservative wing of the EU, the collection of states in Central and Eastern Europe which largely reject Western European policies on everything from immigration to LGBT issues. This week it was announced by Poland's President Andrzej Duda that his country will hold a parliamentary vote by mid-October, with the result certain to have a major impact on the EU's cultural iron curtain already dividing a largely conservative East from a largely liberal West. Right now, polling has the Eurosceptic and conservative nationalist United Right Alliance, led by the Law and Justice Party, in the lead, albeit an increasingly narrow one. United Right is set to win but also set to fall short of a majority, although so too will the opposition, opening up the prospect of United Right needing to work with the even more Eurosceptic and conservative Nationalist Confederation Alliance, currently polling at near 15%. If Brussels dislikes United Right, which plans to hold a referendum on a EU migration plan the same day as the election, then it must dislike Confederation even more, a party which leans even more to the right on everything from immigration to the EU. An alliance of convenience between United Right and Confederation could lead to even greater schism between Warsaw and Brussels, with consequences felt across Europe, if the EU's biggest central and eastern state begins drifting towards the exit door. It may seem odd that Confederation and United Right are not already allies, but divisions over economic issues have prevented closer ties, with Confederation more inclined towards Thatcher-esque policies. United Right, like Hungary's ruling Fidesz, adopts a less ideological economic position. Many of Confederation's leaders and supporters are young. One of its leaders, 36-year-old Sławomir Mencen, has previously campaigned for Poland to leave the EU alongside advocating for the abolition of obligatory pension contributions. He has also signed a declaration devoting his life to Christ. As of now, Confederation and Law and Justice have ruled out working with one another, but if a coalition or alliance is the only way United Right can stay in power, and Confederation can obtain power, then it seems likely that pragmatism will win the day. The consequence could be a Poland even more alienated from the Brussels elite and Western European mainstream, with perhaps a real conversation starting to open up about Poland leaving the EU, an increasingly likely prospect, since Poland, like Hungary, is set to become a net contributor to the bloc. Both countries, like others in Central and Eastern Europe, never adopted the euro, making leaving easier than for Eurozone states. Most Hungarians and Poles back remaining in the bloc, but with the proviso the EU changes into a trade bloc of sovereign states rather than a centralized political union. By October then, the EU's cultural iron curtain, with all its rule of law disputes preventing Hungary and Poland from accessing EU funds, could be that much worse, forcing a final reckoning of the EU's Eastern question. By January, meanwhile, the CCP may have made a final resolution on the Taiwan question. Within a matter of months, therefore, the world could see two of its major flashpoints about to kick up a gear, although certainly when it comes to the EU, a final reckoning is long overdue, with the toxic marriage between the EU's two unhappy partners in need of some sort of amicable separation. The EU is already on a knife edge, with Hungary and Poland constantly at loggerheads with the EU, and with a never-ending struggle about accessing EU funds. The results of this October's election in Poland may be the deciding factor when it comes to unraveling the present-day European Union.